It's time for a special feature segment today, and it's a pleasure to welcome in Pete Peterson from the Pennsylvania Equine Coalition. And Pete, thanks for taking the time to join us here today. I want to talk about some of the economic impact that the industry has here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It is so much more far-reaching than just what we see here at the racetrack.
Absolutely. People come out to the track, and they typically think what they see here is really the jobs they created. In reality, you have jobs throughout the Commonwealth in a lot of rural communities that are supported by the racing industry, from the farmers who supply the hay and the feed to the trainers here at the track, the exercise riders. You have breeders throughout the state. There's approximately 80 breeders, breeding farms in Pennsylvania alone. One of them alone, Hanover Shoe Farm out in York County, they employ approximately 90 people, and are responsible for preserving 2,600 acres of open space there alone. So there's a much broader impact than people typically realize when they think about racing in the state. The Secretary of Agriculture testified a couple years ago that the racing industry here in Pennsylvania has a $1.6 billion economic impact. Billion, with a B, yes. So it's a much far-reaching impact, and it really spreads out the benefit of gaming, so to speak, to rural communities that aren't where there's necessarily a casino located in their backyard. So it really helps to create jobs throughout the state, and both in 36 different industries, in fact. So there's a lot of great economic impact to the industry here.
Pete, you deal with this all the time, but the business in many ways is misunderstood. How difficult is that to get your message out? It's
a challenge because, again, people tend to see horse racing on TV, and they don't realize what goes on behind the scenes to get a horse ready to train. There's a lot goes on from breeding the right horse, finding the you have bloodstock agents who go out and try to match up horses with each other to produce the best horse, and people tend to have blinders on, so to speak, and not really look at the larger impact and how this industry supports family-sustaining jobs throughout the Commonwealth.
It's almost 14 years ago when then Governor Rendell signed the act. It was right out here in the Winter Circle here at Parks, if I remember correctly, I think in July of '04. It's changed over time. What was it originally designed for, and what have the changes been over time?
Sure. When they first were putting together the Gaming Act to legalize casino gaming in Pennsylvania, there was a lot of concern from rural legislators because they knew it was going to impact the horse racing industry. They knew it would impact betting on horse racing because there's other gaming options are opening up. So to really ensure that the impact on the rural communities wasn't as severe, the casinos agreed to set aside a portion of their slots winnings to support purses and breeders' incentives here in Pennsylvania. And that was it was having a great impact. You could see the upward trajectory of the industry, new investment in Pennsylvania. And over time, beginning in 2010, the legislators started to take some of that money year after year. So in 2010, 2011, 2012, they took more than $150 million out of the racing fund that supported purses and breeders' incentives. When that happened, it really caused a lot of people to question whether or not this is the right state for them to invest their money. They do a cost-benefit analysis. And if they don't know that that money is going to be there in the purses, they can win back their investment or have a chance of winning back their investment, and the breeders' incentives, they're going to go to other states and invest. And we start at beginning in 2010, when the legislature started to take that money, we saw a slow downward trend, and we're finally beginning to reverse that now.
And the reason was because people were willing to invest, but it's hard to invest when you don't know what you're investing in.
Absolutely.
And the fact that and that's the reason foals are down in the state over what they were.
They were down, but last year the legislature put in language that essentially put the money from these slots into what's called the Racehorse Development Trust Fund, and stated that they recognize that these are not funds of the Commonwealth, that this is an assessment that the casinos are paying to support the industry. And last year we saw, we started to see the impact. We had a 25% increase at the standardbred horse sale last year compared to 2 years ago, and the horses bred are up 18% from the prior year. So just that level of confidence to say that we're not going to go in and take these monies, it's a trust fund now, has helped to restore a lot of confidence.
Pete, those are some significant numbers, 18%, 25%. One of the things we had a chance to talk about before we came on is with the growth of the races like the Cotillion, the Pennsylvania Derby, it gives the opportunity for some of these outside folks that are not familiar with what's going on here in Pennsylvania to come in and really get a close look.
Yeah, so we have stakes races here at parks. There's the Pennsylvania Derby, and that really helps to attract outside investors, so to speak, people who raise very high quality horses to come in and compete, and they get a chance to see what Pennsylvania has to offer and hopefully make investment here in Pennsylvania in Pennsylvania horses. Maybe they open a breeding farm here, but it's really a chance to showcase the state. If you look at the Kentucky Derby, they don't come in and say, well, you can't race here if you're not from Kentucky. That would be crazy. It's the best in the sport. Right. And that's what the stakes races here in Pennsylvania are designed to do as well. Attract the best horses from around the country, from around the world to compete here.
And probably one of the biggest misconceptions about the sport is there's all these rich horse owners out here running around. Now, we all know better because we know who these people are. Where is that coming from?
I think you have that myth that it's the sport of kings, and that's one of those things that's kind of stuck over time. But if you look at it, the amount of money that your typical owner has to put in to take care of a horse every year, they're barely breaking even, and that's if they're winning races. You have a lot of horses that go bust and don't produce, and that's money that they're never going to see again. So it's really, for most horse owners, it's a break-even proposition at best.
Yeah, this is a number that's kind of held steady over time, but about 90% of horse owners will lose money. That may not be the case here in Pennsylvania because of the purse structure and all, but the reality is because of the expenses, it's just a very difficult sport to sustain. Right. You better love it and not make it your main business.
Yeah, and then you have the winners of the Kentucky Derby or the Belmont, and they see this prize money, and that's what makes the news, and people just assume all the races make that much money, and that's clearly not the case.
And the best comparison is LeBron James makes giant money. Not every player makes giant money and plays basketball.
Absolutely.
And your horse has to get on the track if he's going to make some money, and that's something that doesn't always happen on a regular basis. Pete, thank you so much. We know you're busy for coming out and getting us some of this information, and we know, Dick and I, how close this sport is to our hearts, and a lot of people here in the Commonwealth that love the sport so much and want to see the impact continue, and it's great to have you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.